Hello everyone, welcome back to Jikook News. Today we are going to address an issue that has been repeated, twisted, and force-fed to the public for far too long, as if saying something over and over again could magically turn it into the truth. Yes, we are talking about the so-called Taekook date. One ordinary dinner, one fragile story, and suddenly a massive drama, built not on facts, but on the desperate need to keep an illusion alive. So the question is simple. Is this really about reality? Or is it about a fantasy that refuses to collapse? Let's clear everything up. Without exaggerated emotions, without fabricated narratives, and without bias. Just logic, just facts. This topic has been circulating non-stop lately, constantly reshaped and aggressively pushed as if it were an undeniable truth. You already know the story. Jungkook and Taehyung were allegedly seen having dinner together at a restaurant, and from that single moment, an entire dramatic narrative was born. One that, if we are being honest, originated from something completely ordinary. According to the claims, Jungkook and Taehyung were dining together. Then came the next layer of the story. Jungkook supposedly couldn't sign an autograph, so Taehyung signed on his behalf. From this extremely weak foundation, a flood of exaggerated, incoherent, and frankly absurd theories emerged. These theories were not built on evidence, but on the desire to preserve an old narrative that has already collapsed countless times. That is why I feel the need to clarify certain things, not to create drama, but because it is exhausting to watch every small, meaningless detail being twisted just to sustain a story that does not hold up in reality. Normally, I would say, everyone is free to believe whatever they want. And that is true, no one can force logic or honesty onto someone else. But the issue begins when these people come to my channel not to discuss, but to mock. To claim that this so-called Taekook date somehow proves that Jimin is insignificant, unimportant, or unworthy of a connection with Jungkook. At that point, this stops being about belief. It becomes about disrespect. Believe whatever you want, truly, but do not disturb others. Do not drag people down just to protect a lie. What shocks me the most is not Taekookers clinging to fiction, but how easily some Jikook fans begin to waver just because of comments or theories from people who consistently live off assumptions and fabricated narratives. I could have continued ignoring all of this, as I had for days, but everything changed the moment they started using degrading language toward Jimin, as if he were disposable, as if his presence could simply be erased. That is where the line was crossed, especially when they intentionally invaded Jikook spaces purely to provoke and create conflict. This is not about being dramatic. This is about exposing how ridiculous these repeated theories are, and how dangerous it is to dehumanize someone just to protect a fantasy with no grounding in reality. Let's return to the beginning. A few days ago, a video circulated claiming to show Jungkook and Taehyung having dinner together. Let's assume that is true. Even if it were, what is strange about that? Nothing. Taehyung has dinner with J-Hope and Jimin all the time. Jungkook also frequently eats with other members. They are friends, family, and bandmates of over 10 years. Eating together is not a romantic symbol, far from it. Even among Taekookers themselves, the story lacks consistency. Jungkook was allegedly not visible because he was in the bathroom. That alone shows how fragile this narrative was from the very beginning. Then came the claim about 2 autographs said to belong to Jungkook and Taehyung. Yet anyone using basic logic can see that both signatures clearly belong to the same person. Taehyung. Same style, same pressure, no distinguishing traits of Jungkook whatsoever. And their explanation, the same recycled excuse, Jungkook was in the bathroom so Taehyung signed for him. According to them, Taehyung signed twice, once as himself and once as Jungkook. And the most absurd conclusion followed. That's what husbands do. What is both amusing and suspicious is the pattern. Every time they claim Jungkook and Taehyung are dating, only Taehyung is visible. Jungkook is never seen. And the excuse is always the same. Jungkook is in the bathroom. At this point, Jungkook apparently spends half his life there. This is no longer a theory, it is a joke. Now, people say the restaurant confirmed it. Let's be honest. The restaurant only posted Taehyung's signature and thanked Jungkook. That does not prove they were there together at the same time. They could have visited on different days. That is common and unremarkable. And I will repeat this clearly. Even if Jungkook and Taeyong had dinner together, there is nothing wrong with that. None. The issue is not the dinner. The issue is the forced narrative. Whenever Jungkook and Taeyong are actually seen together, whether through Taeyong's own uploads or public sightings, the dynamic is purely friendly. Casual conversations, laughter, shared space, no intimate gestures, nothing romantic. And this is where the comparison many avoid becomes unavoidable. When Jungkook is with Jimin, the dynamic is entirely different. Constant eye contact, natural closeness, continuous interaction. This is not fan imagination. Even restaurant owners have openly stated that Jungkook often feeds Jimin. That is not fiction. That is documented reality. So when Taekookers claim that Jikook is over because of a fabricated signature story, it becomes laughable. Not surprising, but laughable. Now let's address something far more serious. By claiming that Taeyong signed on Jungkook's behalf, they are indirectly accusing Taeyong of forgery. That is not a harmless theory. That is a criminal accusation. If taken seriously, such claims could legally endanger Taeyong himself. And that reveals the truth. They do not truly care about Taeyong. He is merely a tool to validate a fantasy. No idol deserves to be manipulated or dragged into dangerous accusations for the sake of delusion. Notice the hypocrisy. When Jungkook eats with Taeyong, it is instantly labeled romance, even marriage proof. But when Jungkook eats with Jimin, suddenly it is not love. Not a date. He is forced by the company. Even when no staff are present and the footage comes from ordinary fans. They even go as far as claiming that the Jungkook with Jimin is not the real Jungkook. That is not logic. That is denial of reality. At the core of all this lies one emotion: jealousy. They want Jungkook to show that same warmth, softness, and intimacy to someone else. And because reality never gives them that, fantasy becomes the only escape. In the end, this was never about who had dinner with whom. It is about how reality keeps being twisted to protect a narrative that has long lost its footing. Believe whatever you want. That is your right. But do not drag others down. Do not demean Jimin. And do not gamble your own idol's reputation for a fantasy that was never real. Facts do not need loud defenders. They stand even when ignored. Thank you for watching Jikook News. If you value honest, reality-based discussions, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts, respectfully, in the comments. See you in the next video.